Welcome back to All the Mons. I'm Bumpstar, and now that we've started collecting some materials needed for the ATM Star, one thing that's going to become more and more important is having a steady supply of resources running in the background, other than our mystical agriculture, of course. So in this episode, we're going to be diving into productive bees and setting up a fully automated system that will generate a wide variety of materials for us passively. The goal here is to build a scalable bee setup that can continuously produce important resources, including some of the rare materials we're going to need later on. By the end of this episode, we should have a fully functional bee infrastructure that feeds directly into our storage system and helps support everything else we're working towards. So let's get started. So last episode, I set this up and I scaled it up a little more. We now have, well, hoppers filled with AllTheModium and 8 different hoppers filled with Vibranium. And before we get started on our bee journey, I want to see if I can get our Unobtainium seed real quick. And we're going to use easy villagers to do that. We have 2 traders here. We need to make a PC, I believe. Place those inside the trader. We're going to grab our 2 villagers that we have and place those inside the trader blocks. And I believe we're going to need to just continuously trade these to get them to max level. So let's do that. We have Vibranium and AllTheModium. So unfortunately, this one is not it. And Vibranium and AllTheModium for this one as well. So we're going to need more villagers. Unobtainium per... Holy crap. That is insane. 64 blocks of Unobtainium, 16 Vibranium apricorn seeds, or 1 Unobtainium apricorn seed. Oh, that is just as bad. Okay, guess that's the only way to get that. So we're gonna need way more Unobtainium, which hopefully today we will have that. But for now, we're gonna go ahead and put all of that back in our inventory. And it's time to get started on bees. And one of the things that I did is add 2 levels to our mystical agriculture tower here, because I think this is where we're gonna do bees, to be honest. So one of the things I like to do when I am doing productive bees is generally wait until I get to the end. And normally in most mod packs, I get to the end a lot quicker than I did with this. I was just trying to take my time before I rushed over there. The first thing that we're going to need is a draconic bee. These are the most important bees for getting into productive bees. That is going to require a obsidian nest with some dragon's breath. We have dragon's breath automated now from our hostile neural networks from the ender dragon that we set up. And then for an obsidian nest, it's just a piece of obsidian with a diamond sword. And then we're going to want to go ahead and grab some bee cages. And then we just need to head to the end. And unfortunately, I didn't put a waystone down when we were in the end, so we have to head all the way back there. And we need the explorer's compass to know where that was for the stronghold, which is broken. And we can't craft another one because we don't have any echo shards. Luckily, we can just go liberate the warden from his life with some hostile neural networks set up, start getting echo shards that way. So that's what I'm gonna do super quick. That was really easy. All right, let's do that 5 more times. I don't know. What do you think about my new headpiece? I don't think I'm gonna keep it on. We've got our 4 warden data models going, and with that warden prediction, we're gonna go ahead and just pick echo shards. All right, and we now have enough echo shards to make our explorer's compass. All right, this time let's put our waystone down. But now, since we have our waystone down, we can put some obsidian nests down and start putting some dragon's breath in each one of these. And if you look at them, they have a countdown of, well, 1,200 seconds. But if you keep feeding it dragon's breath, it'll bring that countdown way further. And you can feed it as much or as little as you want, just to get it to where you're comfortable waiting. But since we have dragon's breath already automated, we're gonna go ahead and just bring these down as quickly as we can. Make sure you are ready with your bee cages for when these spawn. So I believe these spawn a little hostile towards us. Grab you, grab you. And one more. And we're going to go ahead and do this 2 more times. If by chance you have some type of time wand or tick acceleration, you can speed this up even further to really get this going, but I don't have that, and I don't know if I'm gonna make it, if I'm being completely honest. Time wands definitely make the pack a little more enjoyable, but they're pretty time consuming to set up. Let me know down in the comments below if you want to learn how to do it. So now what we're gonna want to do is set up some beehives. And Productive Bees has its own version of a beehive. We have the Advanced Oak Beehive. We're going to make 3 of these. And I've already set up the pattern for this. All very easy to make. We have honeycomb from our honey essence. And we got this from just taking out some bee-like Pokemon and getting honeycombs from them. You know, like that guy. If you don't want to do that, take that route, and you want to be passive, you could always go to the Bumble Zone by throwing a Ender Pearl into a beehive. Now we're going to also make 3 oak expansion boxes, and we're going to go ahead and place these right here. Then we can put our expansion boxes by shift right clicking right on top of the beehive. So if we right click on this, we now have 5 slots that we can put bees into. And you can see over here, we have 4 upgrade slots that we can put into each one of these. And for that, we're going to make 3 simulation upgrades. Once again, very simple. We should have all these resources already. And then we're going to make 3 times 3 speed upgrades. And once again, should have all these resources already. The reason you want to make the simulation upgrade is because if we put the bees inside of this oak beehive right now, they are going to hop in there and then come out, and they're just gonna explore. They're gonna be flying around everywhere and doing their thing, which is fine, but it's extremely unproductive. Where the simulation upgrade makes it so that way when you put bees in there, it's going to simulate them leaving the hive, but they're gonna stay in there all the time. You don't have to worry about them flying away. You don't have to enclose them into a room. You can just keep them inside the beehive and they will keep producing their combs and everything else that they do. So let's put a simulation in this. And then we're going to go ahead and put 3 speed upgrades just to increase the speed a bit. And we'll do that for all 3. So now we can come in here and put our 5 draconic bees in each one of these hives. And now they're in here. But an issue that you run into is they're not going to do anything because they're not being fed anything. Normally, if you let them out of the hive, they will fly around, they'll use flowers to pollinate, and then they'll come back to the hive and they'll produce whatever they make. If you have the simulation in, and just in general, you need a feeding slab. So we're going to make 3 of those, and all that is just some smooth stone with a chest. And you're going to want to break out the ground right here. And then we can take that feeding slab and just place it down here right in front of the beehive. And if you right click on it, you have 3 slots. You can double stack these by putting another one underneath and you'll get 6, but 3 is generally good enough because for the most part, when I'm doing this, each beehive is its own specific resource. But if you want to have multiple different bees in here, say you want 5 different bees in here, you can double up on the feeding slab to make sure that they have whatever they need to pollinate. And if you right click on the bee and you come over to the bee flowering, it's going to tell you what you need. So for draconic bees, you need a dragon egg. And for now, we only have 1 dragon egg, but we could very easily change that. We have the ender dragon set up over here. And all we're going to do is come in here, wait for it to pop in and switch it over to the dragon egg. And we just need 2 more of those. So we're going to let that one run, and switch it back to Dragon's Breath. And now we have 2 more dragon eggs. And then we can just take those dragon eggs, put those into these 2 feeding slabs here. And you can see this one already. It has honey dripping out of it. And it has 5 draconic combs. Now, these draconic combs need to be processed. And to process that, we use a centrifuge. So we're going to place that right in the middle of the room here. And if we take these combs and we place them inside the centrifuge, it'll slowly, and we can speed this up with speed upgrades, but it'll slowly take our draconic combs and, well, make some wax. It's not a 100% chance to get what you want out of it. And there we go. We now get draconic dust, while also getting wax, and we get some honey. We're getting multiple different resources from this. Let's go ahead and put some speed upgrades in here to make this a little quicker. As you can see, it's much faster with these speed upgrades, and this isn't even as fast as it can get. But now, as you can see, with a regular centrifuge, this is pretty inefficient. It's slow, it's getting a ton of wax and honey. We're not really getting a ton of draconic dust. So what we could do is make a powered centrifuge. A power centrifuge requires power, and it's trying to transfer that honey back and forth here, which is fine. But we'll go ahead and put some draconic combs in here, and you can see even without speed upgrades, this is a lot quicker. But we're still getting wax, and wax is something that we do need, but we don't need an absolute ton of it, and it's a little more efficient using the powered centrifuge versus the regular one. And there is a third centrifuge that you can make called the heated centrifuge. The issue is that while this doesn't produce any wax, which is generally pretty good, it can only run with blocks of combs and not individuals. And in order to get blocks, you need to have a upgrade over here called Productivity Omega. Or you could always make the block upgrade itself. The issue is that it requires draconic dust to make and wax. So it's kind of worth having just wax being generated right now because we're going to need it. So we're going to go ahead and just use the powered centrifuges for now until we have more of our draconic dust. But I went ahead and I placed speed upgrades in all of these. And as you can see, this is now a lot faster. And obviously this is the very beginning of bees, but this is already annoying. I have to come over here to grab some combs out, come over here, place them in here, wait for them to process, and then take it all out, and then I can put it into our system. But that's really inefficient. So what we can do is automate these. And to automate these, you have a couple different options. We could use modular routers, we could use pipes, we could use applied energistics, or we could use Super Factory Manager. Any one of those will work. It's kind of whatever you prefer. When I first learned bees, I started using Super Factory Manager for it. It's actually how I learned how to use Super Factory Manager. In this playthrough, I've been using a ton of modular routers, and I think I'm going to go ahead and try and do that for this as well. So let's give this a shot. I'm going to put a modular router on top of this beehive. I'm going to tell this to transfer draconic combs into the modular router. And obviously we need to take our distribution model and right click on here. Then if we place that in here, this will start filling up. And then we're going to take another distributor module and we're going to tell it to send those to the powered centrifuges. And then we're also going to set up another one to transfer into the router. And we're going to right click on all these and we're going to have this one take the pollen puffs. And we're going to send it to this modular router. And then we're going to do the same thing with this one to transfer it into the router. And we're going to tell it to take from our power centrifuges and send that back into this same modular router. And then we're going to grab a sender module and we're going to tell this router to send into a dimensional chest. And let's go ahead and make some speed upgrades for both of these. But now we can see all of our pollen puffs, our draconic dust, and our wax is being sent into this dimensional chest, while all of our combs are being sent into the powered centrifuges. Now the only thing that we need to handle now is the honey that's building up in here. In order to handle this honey, we're going to put some fluted pipes down. We're going to set these to extract. And then we're going to take a dimensional tank and we'll go ahead and place that right here. And this will start filling up with honey. And then we just need to go set up our functional storage to handle this honey. So we'll just come over here, break that wall out, put a fluid drawer in here. Ah, that has lava in it. All right, put a fresh fluid drawer in here. Give it 4 diamond upgrades. Give it a void upgrade. configure it and let's link it to the system. Now we're going to take a fluid pipe, place it here, place our dimensional tank there, set that to pool and put a diamond upgrade there. And then as you can see, nothing's happening with that honey at the moment. So we need to take a bucket of it, come over to our fluid drawer and place a bucket of honey in there. And now all of our honey is going to be sent to this fluid drawer. And if we look at our system, we now have that honey available in our system. But since we're using a dimensional chest, we need to make sure that we set up all of these items inside of our functional storage system, or else they're just going to fill up this chest over time and cause it to backfill. Pretty much exactly how we have mystical agriculture set up and all of that. We just have it on a different frequency so it doesn't overlap. In between episodes, I did set up a ton of extra functional storage and space so that way we always have somewhere for this to go. And we need to make sure to make another dimensional chest and set that up down here because we are using this one on frequency 10 and this one on 2. And with our productive bees, we have that set to frequency 3. All right, there we go. And our dimensional chest is empty. We can see over here that these are starting to fill up. And that's pretty much how you automate the basic productive bees. The only other thing you're going to want to keep an eye on is your fluids, because some honeycombs produce different fluids than honey. So if you ever come across that, all you have to do is grab a bucket of it, go set up a functional storage drawer for it, and then it should automatically empty out. Keep in mind for distributor modules, you will need to make a new setup for this after every 8 hives, because you can only do 8 different locations on those modules, one of the two. So as you can see over here in my little saved area, I have a bunch of different bees saved. I've got iron bee, gold, redstone, emerald, coal, lapis, blaze bee, withered bee, ancient bees, diamond bees, and then our AllTheModium, Vibranium, and Unobtainium bees. These are all the bees that I want to get set up because they're all pretty important for the AllTheMons Star. We're going to need a ton of iron and gold. We're going to need a ton of AllTheModium, Vibranium, and Unobtainium. It never hurts to have netherite. It never hurts to have diamonds. And the rest of them are just kind of important resources that we're always going to need an abundance of. The only one that we can kind of get away with not using is redstone, because we have a pretty good amount of it, but it never hurts to have more. And with some of these bees, you can't just get an iron bee from a hive. You have to breed them. So to breed an iron bee, you're going to need a crystalline bee and an ashy mining bee. To get an ashy mining bee, you need to use a sand, gravel, or dirt nest with a honey tree to try and get an ashy mining bee. The problem is from any of these nests, you can get multiple different bees. So you're just gonna have to kind of play your luck and hopefully you get one. And you only need one. For the crystalline bee, that one's pretty simple. It's just a quartz nest in the nether. Feed it some quartz and you'll get some crystalline bees. And then with a crystalline bee, you get quartz from it. So let's go get those two. I went ahead and made 2 gravel, 2 sand, 2 dirt nests, just to hope that we can get what we're looking for. For some reason, my honey treats are not working on the sand and gravel nest. Not sure why. Hey, look at that. We just got an ashy mining bee from our first one. And our second one. Ah, that's why they won't, because the gravel and the sand nest will not work at these locations. You look at the top there, but the dirt will. So we just can't use these here. That makes sense. I forgot that was a thing, if I'm being honest. But now that we have our crystalline and our ashy mining bee, we need to be able to breed them. And to do that, it's a breeding chamber. And for a breeding chamber, it's rose bush and a bunch of other resources that we just have already. Once we have that breeding chamber set up, we are going to need the baby incubator. Breeding chamber needs to be powered. And now all we have to do is put our ashy mining bee and our crystalline bee in here. But before we do that, you want to hold shift over the bees and you can see all of their different stats. Productivity, weather tolerance, behavior, endurance, temper, breeding item of any flower. I've went ahead and picked a high productivity crystalline bee and a high productivity ashy mining bee, because then that means when we breed these two, we're going to get a high productivity breeded bee from here. Now, as you can see, this is an aluminum bee. We don't need aluminum. So if we take one of these out and put it back in, it'll change. And now it's at iron. And you can keep changing that until you get the bee that you want it to breed. And that's only for certain combinations, but this one, that's how that works. So then we're going to want to go ahead and make 5 iron bees. So we need to put the bee cages here. We can put some speed upgrades in here. And then we're going to want to go ahead and put some flowers in here, because you need flowers in order for it to breed. And then slowly over time, these hearts will fill up until it breeds an iron bee, and it'll be placed in a cage right here. So now that this is done breeding, we have a iron bee in a bee cage. But if we hold shift over it, it says it's a child, which means we need to use the baby incubator on the child to turn it into an adult. But in order to do that, we need honey treats, which we have plenty of. So let's place a stack of honey treats in here, and then this will slowly turn into an adult. And you could completely automate this by taking a pipe and sending all of the baby bees into the incubator through the pipe, and then using something like modular routers or applied energistics to make sure this is always stocked on honey treats. And then when you set up some new bees, you would just want to make sure that you add those to your modular router, so that way everything that you're doing is getting sent back. And if we look at an iron bee, it pollinates on pretty much anything iron. So we're just going to put an iron block in there. And for our crystalline bees, it's just going to be a block of quartz. And as you can see, the combs are being sent directly over here. So it is a fuzzy mode. We don't have to worry about setting up anything extra. It is going to just pull those combs regardless of what kind of comb it is. So then we just want to make sure that anything new that we're putting in here is given a place to live within our functional storage. So that way it doesn't just overflow this dimensional chest. So next up, one of the most important bees we're going to need to do is the diamond bee. And we need the diamond bee for, well, diamonds, but we're also going to need it for netherite, and then we're going to need those netherite bees to make the AllTheModium, Vibranium, and Unobtainium bees. So let's do that. To get the diamond bee, we're going to need a ender bee and a lapis bee. For the lapis bee, it is a redstone bee with a blue banded bee, and the redstone bee is from a glowing bee and a chocolate mining bee. The glowing bee is from a glowstone nest. The chocolate mining bee will be from our dirt nest. The blue banded bee will be from either acacia, dark oak, or cherry nest. And then our ender bee will be from an endstone nest in the end, with a popped chorus fruit as the treat. So I'm going to go get all of those and start breeding them up. And after about a full in-game day, I've gotten a ton of bees. So now we just need to breed them all. And now we're on to our diamond bees, so we're going to make about 7 of them, because we're going to have 5 for a hive, and then we're going to turn 2 of them into netherite bees. I know I've said it before, but having a time wand for this whole process makes this so much quicker. I'm spending so much time just waiting around, waiting for these bees to breed and then incubate. It is very time consuming. I strongly recommend that you have something else to work on while you're doing this, because if not, you're just going to be standing here twiddling your thumbs. Or pull up a YouTube video, I don't know, watch my stuff while you're doing this, or someone else. It doesn't matter. Just find something to do in between waiting if you don't have a time wand, because, well, it's just very, very time consuming. While we wait to finish with our diamond bees, I'm going to set up something with mystical agriculture, kind of change it up real quick, because we need squid essence in order to make the heart of the sea, and we need the heart of the sea to make the omega productivity upgrades and other upgrades within productive bees. And I just haven't gotten around to doing this yet. So there's a couple different ways that we could fill up our soul jars with the squid essence, because we need to fill these up by killing squid to make the soul seed, or the squid seed, to get soul essence. But we could also come over here to our market and buy squid spawn eggs. So we're going to buy a stack of these, and then we're just going to spawn a bunch of squid in, and then kill them all with the dagger here. And as you can see, we already have one jar completely full with another one at 2. So we could absolutely just keep doing that. Or if you find that you have a ton of ink sacs, you can use this soul extractor and place all of those ink sacs in here with a soul jar. And that'll start filling it up as well. Just using the spawn eggs with the dagger seems to be a bit quicker, because you're going to have to kill all these anyway if you're going to use the soul extractor route. But you might as well just do both. Just have one jar running with all of the ink sacs and have your other one just spawning out. And I mean, it's actually kind of crazy how quickly these fill up. Yeah, we're just going to go ahead and grab this last soul jar and spawn the rest of these squid in. Yeah, that was definitely a bit quicker just using the dagger. But now we're going to take these soul jars and we're going to place all 4 of them around the altar here. We're going to use a solium seed base, which is just a prosperity seed with 2 solium dust. Then we're going to need 4 prudentium essence. And there we go. We're now making our squid seed, which now means that we should be able to make Heart of the Sea, because we already have prismarine, we already have diamond. We can already make the nautilus shell. We're just missing the squid essence. So now if we look at our omega upgrade, the only thing we're missing is the draconic dust from our draconic bees. And it's just gonna take time. We just have to wait for this to keep doing its thing. But now we have 5 diamond bees in a hive, and then we have 2 extra ones. And we're going to make a little area right here in the corner with 3 bricks, or you could just trapdoors, and then an oak fence here. And we need to take our diamond bees and we want to spawn them in here so they can't fly away. And then we want to feed them a block of netherite. And that turns it into an ancient bee. We're going to do that a second time. But now we have 2 of our ancient bees. So we can go ahead and put our ancient bees in here. And we can now breed them to make more ancient bees. And this is where the fun really picks up. We are going to need an absolute ton of ancient bees, because in order to move these on to the Allthemodium bees, we need to make the Allthemodium bee spawn egg. To make the Allthemodium bee spawn egg, we need productive metalworks to melt down Allthemodium into molten Allthemodium, so 4 ingots of that. And we need to pour that on top of an ancient bee spawn egg. To get an ancient bee spawn egg, we need to use some type of egg with a honey treat that is typed to netherite. And you want to make sure this is at 100%, because if it's only at 10%, it will consume the honey treat and not work. You have a 10% chance for it to work, but a 90% chance for it not to. So you could try and juggle with the 10%, but you want to get this to 100%. In order to get a honey treat to 100% netherite, you need to use the gene sampling method through productive bees to get that netherite treat to 100%, which is what I'm going to show you how to set up now. Alright, so we have one of our netherite ancient bees here. So what we're going to do is we are going to place down our bottler. And then we want to put a piston above it, set a lever down, and activate it. In this bottler, we want to place bottles in here. And then we want to take our ancient bee and we want to click right here in between the piston, the activated piston, and the housing. And it's going to squish that bee. If we look in our inventory now, we have squished bee material, ancient bee. Then we want to put a centrifuge down, give it some power. And if we put that squished bee material in here, that is going to turn into gene samples. We got productivity, endurance, temper, behavior, weather tolerance, and then type. And this is productive bees netherite type 21%. So now what we're going to want to do is put a gene indexer down. If we take these gene samples and we place them in this indexer, when we add more to this, they will start combining. So if we have multiple productivity high, they will combine their percentages. If we have multiple netherite types, they will combine percentages. And then we want to keep doing this until we get to 100%. So let's squash another bee and then come into this power centrifuge and start placing all of these squashed bee materials in here. Now let's come to our gene indexer and drop all of this off in here. And as you can see, it is starting to be used. So if we come over here, our netherite gene sample is now at 97%. So we just need to keep squashing netherite bees until we get this to 100%, and we get a few of them to 100%. And the reason that we need a few is because we need at least 5 ancient bee spawn eggs to get 5 AllTheModium bee spawn eggs. But you also want to keep in mind, to get Vibranium, you're going to want 5 AllTheModium bee spawn eggs. Unobtainium is the exact same thing. We are going to need the Vibranium bee spawn egg, which comes from the AllTheModium spawn egg, which comes from the ancient bee spawn egg. So as a total, we are going to need 15 ancient bee spawn eggs. So we just need to let these ancient bees keep breeding. We gotta fill it up with some flowers. Luckily, we should have our iron farms here. There we go. I never changed this from a QIO importer. So let's go ahead and make a dimensional chest to start sending that over. Oh, if we take a look, now that we have Heart of the Sea, we can make the speedier upgrade, which is just faster than the regular speed upgrade. It does take an absolute ton of materials though. After a pretty solid amount of time, I've got about 30 netherite bees that I've gone ahead and squished. I've made this kind of automated, so you put the squished material in here. It will feed it down through the pipe into the centrifuge, and then this will feed from a pipe here, and I have the advanced upgrade so it empties out quickly and feeds it into here. And so far we have 4 100% netherites and another one going. So we just gotta keep this going. It's gonna take some time, but yeah. You could also set up an item collector on the spruce barrel, so it'll always pick up the bottles of squished bee material. And I think we'll do that. So I've gone ahead and automated this a little further. With our item collector, we have it set to squished bee material allow, and down to a speed of 1 tick, and just in this general area. So if we squish a bee here, it should pick that up. We also want to set bee stinger as well. So we'll turn that off. So now anytime we squish a bee, it should go into the spruce barrel. Over here, I have a advanced pipe upgrade with the bee stinger, and it's going to send that right into an interface that's connected to our system here. And then if it's the squish bee material, it should come down here into this powered centrifuge and then transfer over. So let's test it out. Just make sure to turn our magnet off. There we go. That's in here. Perfect. Oh. We are almost out of glass bottles. Not quite. There we go. So then what we can do here as well is set glass bottles here to 64. Put a crafting card in this, so it'll always stock 64 glass bottles. And then you guessed it, modular router. Going to pull from the interface, and we're going to tell that to pull glass bottles. And then we're going to send to our bottler, and that should just always keep this stocked up with glass bottles. And of course, we'll speed that up. So as it stands right now, we've got 8 of our netherite productive bees going, and well, we just need a bit more. So now our last step to get these spawn eggs is going to be to use an incubator. To make sure it's powered, we're going to grab the samples that we have while we let this continue to get the last 7 that we need. So you wanted to take some honey treats and take your gene samples, and you'll make the honey tree type netherite. Let's make all 8 of those. And now we need to place them in here in the treat slot, and then we're going to place some eggs here, and this will slowly over time turn these into the spawn eggs. Let's go ahead and throw some speedier upgrades in here. As you can see, that goes so much quicker. You want to be extremely careful with these. Do not right click them into the world, or else the egg will hatch and you will have the bee, and this whole process would have been for nothing. So please be careful once you have these. Now we need to set up a productive metals foundry. I've gone ahead and set up all of the patterns that we need for this, but we're going to need some liquid heating coils, and we'll go ahead and make 4 of these. We're going to make 1 foundry drain, 1 foundry tank, 1 foundry tap, and a casting table. And you know what, we'll go ahead and make a second tap and a casting basin, because we might try and just make this powered instead of using liquid. And then we need the black foundry controller. So then the only other stuff that we're going to need are going to be bricks and glass for the rest of the walls. So we're just going to make a handful of these. You know, and I changed my mind. I'm going to make this a 3x3. So let's go ahead and place our liquid heating coils down. Then we're going to want to surround it with some bricks. You don't have to worry about putting corners down. Just like this is fine. And we're going to put some foundry windows down. Then we'll go ahead and place our controller right here in the middle. Go ahead and place our drain right here. And then we'll place our tank right here. And just fill the rest of this in with glass. And then we will do a layer of bricks on top. Now at our drain, we're going to put the taps down right here. Put a casting basin here and a casting table there. And then the only other thing we have to do is pump some lava into here. We're going to go ahead and use this fluid drawer that has the dripping upgrades to just allow this to fill this lava up. It's slow, but we're not going to use this permanently. But in order to make a capacitor, we need molten redstone with a black fire brick to make the black foundry capacitor. And that's what we're going to do. So let's use this. Let's grab some redstone. And we're going to need 1 block and 1 pile, so 10 redstone total. So if we come in here and we shift click our redstone in here, it's going to start melting this down. And sometimes the blocks take a little while. It would have been a lot easier to just do individual piles. So let's split this up and place that down, and those should all start melting down pretty easily. So now we have 1 block and 1 pile of redstone in here. Let's take our black fire brick and place it in the casting basin here. And then we're going to right click this drain. And it's going to start pouring onto this brick. And then now it is a cooling black foundry capacitor. So then we just need to make some powered heating coils, which are just fire bricks, copper, and block of amethyst. So that's pretty easy. But before we start using the capacitor, we are actually going to change these powered heating coils into high powered heating coils. And to do that, we put the powered heating coils inside of our basin, and we pour soul lava on top of it to make the high powered heating coils. And to do that, we can just go ahead and break this part of the drain out. We can put our tank that we have filled with soul lava, place it in here, and then use a fluid pipe to pump it in. So we can see that this is now going to fill up with soul lava. So now we can just sit here and fill up this casting basin 9 times with the powered heating coils to create the high powered heating coils. And we could go ahead and completely automate this with some hoppers or pipes. If you put a lever next to the drain and turn it on, it'll just automatically pour it out. Anytime there's something in there that can use it, you could put a pipe here or a hopper with a barrel to feed into this basin and just automate this whole process. We just don't need to do that right now. So we're only making 9 of these. And there's our last one. So now we're just going to try and get the soul lava back into our tank that's in here. And we'll do the same thing with the lava over here. And break that foundry out. And let's put the capacitor here. Come in here. Let's break all of our liquid heating coils. And let's put the high powered ones down. Then all we have to do is throw a point on this capacitor, give it some power. And now this is completely powered. Oh, take that out. This is completely powered with our energy. So that way we can do everything without having to worry about filling this with lava. And it's going to be a lot quicker and able to do pretty much everything that Productive Metalworks allows it to do with this setup. But now it's time to make our AllTheModium bee. So we're going to take our ancient bee spawn egg and place it down on the casting table. Then we're going to place 4 ingots in here. We now have 4 ingots of molten AllTheModium. Right click this. And this is now an AllTheModium bee spawn egg. So let's come down here, crack that egg, pick it up. And we now have a AllTheModium bee. Means we can go ahead and place that right in here, and we just need to give it a block of AllTheModium for it to start giving us AllTheModium. So total, it's going to be 60 ingots of AllTheModium to get all 15 of our AllTheModium bee spawn eggs. But now we're down to 56 with our 7, so let's go ahead and put all of these AllTheModium ingots in here. So now we can just come over here, put our spawn egg down and turn that into the Allthemodium bee spawn egg, and just keep doing that over and over again. And now we have 7 Allthemodium bee spawn eggs in our inventory. While we're waiting for the rest of our netherite, we're going to go ahead and put all of our Vibranium and our Unobtainium in here. And let's go ahead and make 3 Vibranium spawn eggs. So you want to make sure that you click on the Vibranium here, so that way it is down at the bottom. And then you want to come over here, place your egg, right click. And now this is a Vibranium bee spawn egg. So now we have our 3 Vibranium bee spawn eggs. And then we're going to do the exact same thing with Unobtainium. And then we just want to go through and grab all these with our cages. So now we have a beehive full of Allthemodium bees. And let's do the same thing for our Vibranium and our 2 Unobtainium. We need a block in each of these. Now if we take a look at our dimensional chest, we are now getting nuggets and some netherite scraps. We just have to give those all somewhere to live. We'll go ahead and put our nuggets in some of these compacting drawers here. So that way those will be auto-crafted to ingots and blocks and we won't have to worry about it. And there we go. We have those all stored here. So we'll just give those some diamond upgrades to make sure that we never run out of room. And the last thing to keep in mind for productive bees is you can use these gene samples like the 100% productivity high, put those on some honey treats, take out any of your bees that have a lower productivity, feed it the honey tree, and it'll turn to a high productivity. That way you're just getting more out of everything that you're doing. I will say using modular routers for bees, I don't think it's the way to go. I think using something like Super Factory Manager is definitely better. It's a lot faster, where this, since it has the buffer here, it's going to constantly be sitting on stuff and it's just going to take a little longer to go through. It definitely works. It's just not the fastest thing in the world. So the last thing that I'm going to do here is I'm going to set up 3 of the block upgrades here into our draconic bees instead of one of the speeds, because that'll start causing it to generate the blocks. And then I set up a modular router here, only pulling from these 3, and it's going to pull the draconic comb blocks and send it into the heated centrifuge, which just guarantees that we're going to get a lot more of the draconic dust. So that way this can start speeding up a bit. And then we'll just go ahead and put the speedier upgrade in here. And we just got to put a fluid pipe on here to pull all the honey out. And there we go. These should process that draconic a lot quicker. So that way we can get closer and closer to creating the productivity omega upgrades. As soon as we can get 4 of these inside of one of these draconic bees, it is going to massively increase the amount that we are getting, which means we can then put another 4 in the next one and another 4 in the next one, which will then make it to the point where we'll be able to make those omega upgrades for every single one of these. So we can get rid of the regular powered centrifuges, have them all heated centrifuges, and it'll just increase the amount of materials we're getting from all of this an absolute ton. But yeah, we have Allthemodium, Vibranium, and Unobtainium automated just by using some bees. And that is going to be it for today's episode. I hope that you learned something new about productive bees and how easy it can be to set up. It's just extremely time consuming. A lot of this episode that you're seeing has been chopped up because there's just been a lot of me standing around waiting for things to happen. Productive bees is a fantastic mod. It just takes forever to get going. And this isn't even all of it. This is just showing you what it can do. I'm not going to bore everybody with showing you how to make every single bee that I'm going to set up, but in between episodes, I will set those up. I will be setting up all the important materials through bees that we're going to need for the star, as well as finishing off our Unobtainium and Vibranium bees, and upgrading them all to high productivity with the honey treats and gene sampling. I apologize for the length of this episode, as I'm sure it is a lot longer than most of my episodes, but hopefully you stuck around and enjoyed it. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Later. Oh, and I also won't be invisible next episode.